What is market research? I'll bet your mental image is someone with a clipboard stopping you in the street to ask you endless questions about a product or service. That does happen, of course, but market research is a much more significant part of marketing than that activity might suggest. In this lecture, I'm going to define market research, discuss why organisations need to do it, and list some of the different methods used. At the end, I'll focus on the most common research tool, the self-administered questionnaire, and I'll offer some insight into research analysis. An excellent definition of market research is this: the systematic collection of information on existing or potential markets for analysis and subsequent action. In order to be successful at marketing, that is, to offer the right customer value proposition, you need to find out what's going on in your chosen market. Specifically, identify customer needs and wants, understand the competition, and analyse the market dynamics. From this, you can then meet those needs and outperform the competition. In this way, research is used as an input to analysis and subsequent decision making. It can be used to find new markets and to ascertain your customers' real needs. It can tell you what you're doing well and not so well. To summarise, research helps you to minimise risk, focus efforts, and maximise return on investment. But how do we carry out research? It's always important to know what you want to find out before you begin, so as not to waste time, effort, or money. This is why before starting, it's necessary to clarify your research objectives. You need to know why you want the information, what you'll do with it, and the format it should be in. There are many ways of getting information, but first ask, has it already been done before by somebody else? This is often much cheaper and easier to obtain. You find out by carrying out desk research. If it hasn't been done before, or you can't access it, then you'll have to undertake field research. Most textbooks on market research will give you a huge list of sources for conducting desk research. Specialist libraries, trade associations, market research associations, government publications, trade journals, periodicals, and so on. But you and I both know that in this day and age, research starts in a pretty familiar place: Google. If it exists, and you know the right keywords, wherever it is, you'll track it down with Google. And so, if you can't find out the information you want by desk research, then you have to find out for yourself. Whether we're talking about a large corporation or someone working individually. It's a logical process that starts, as I've said, with setting a research objective. Usually this is arrived at by identifying exactly what the problem is that you're to solve. In most cases, the objective is to find out in detail what your target customers want, or at least a variation on this. My advice is keep it simple. Should the product be bigger or smaller? Would customers like more colour options? Do they want faster delivery at a higher price? Those kind of easy to answer, clearly defined questions. Once you've established your objective, the next question is, how large should the sample be? The number of people questioned is very important in any type of research. Fortunately, it's not necessary to ask such large numbers of your target market to get a reliable answer. There is agreement among researchers that the actual size of sample necessary to represent the population is fairly low, because after a certain point there is little appreciable improvement in accuracy no matter how many more people you ask. Even for most consumer goods, it's in the low hundreds out of a potential market of millions. The absolute minimum for any research sample that you want to analyse statistically is 30. Provided that you have a homogeneous range, that is, the same type of people who display similar characteristics. They might be similar ages, the same sex, be from the same region or have the same occupation, lifestyle and so on. But if you want to generalise, you need to have found a group of that nature. From here, there are essentially two approaches to research: quantitative and qualitative. Quantitative questions require a specific answer, for example, how many do you like? The answers are easy to analyse because they fit a pattern. The drawback is that they may be inaccurate because they don't provide in-depth explanation. Qualitative questions allow people to describe feelings. They are harder to analyse, but provide richer information. For example, how could we improve our service? Which new feature would you like added? Depending on your objective, you'll want to use either a quantitative or qualitative approach or a combination of both. The main research tools are telephone interviews, written questionnaires, which are often online nowadays, and face-to-face interviews. Other methods include product testing, consumer panels, observation, and focus groups. Since written questionnaires are the most commonly used research tool, I'll give them some extra attention. Their use is widespread among all types of organisation. They can be administered either by the researcher or self-administered, whereby the respondent fills in his or her own answers. You'll find this research tool is either received and returned via the post, or completed online or in store. A self-administered questionnaire is passive, so it relies on the goodwill of the respondent for completion. It's relatively easy and cheap to run, and you'll find that structure is vital. Questions need to be simple, clear, and not subjective. For a written questionnaire, there are 5 main types of question you can ask. Likert scale questions, which show agreement levels. Usually a statement is given along with strongly agree through to strongly disagree. With importance questions, there's simply a rating of the weighting of a factor, unimportant, neutral, important, etc. Rating questions usually measure an attribute from poor through to excellent. Meanwhile, multiple choice questions offer a limited number of choices to choose from, with 2 or more options. Lastly, open-ended questions allow the respondent to make comments on a subject in their own words. As well as questions relating to the subject you're researching, you'll also want to ask demographic questions, the age, sex, occupation type of questions, so that you can segment the results and get a clearer picture of your target market. What's left after doing the actual research is the analysis. The main task is to interpret the data, identifying patterns and meaning. At a basic level, this usually involves counting the number of responses, ratings and scores across the sample and working out the averages or ranges. The findings should all relate back to your research objective, and effectively they should answer the problem that you set out to solve. With all this done, your research is ready to be used in decision making at a strategic level. To summarise, the purpose of market research is to collect information on markets, in other words current or potential customers, to enable a better understanding of the market so you can better serve customer needs and wants. Ideally, you should know your market size, dynamics, who the competitors are, and precisely what your customers want and need. The research findings you generate are analysed and used to determine tactical changes and improvements to the product or service offering, and in turn to determine the organisation's overall future strategic direction.